Hello, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Reading Little Blue Books Out Loud While Stoned. Today, we're going to start part 3 of Little Blue Book number 4, titled The Age of Reason by Thomas Paine. Now, the Age of Reason was originally written in 1792, I believe, and so that is the English language that it's written in. So it's got a little more flourish than usual. But we're going to press on. So, let me see, where did we leave off? Well, we'll say we left off on page 36. So, here we go. If we take a survey of our own world, or rather of this of which the Creator has given us to use as our portion in the immense system of creation, we find every part of it, the earth, the waters, and the air that surrounds it, filled and, as it were, crowded with life, down from the largest animals we know of to the smallest insects the naked eye can behold, and from thence to others still smaller and totally invisible without the assistance of the microscope. Every tree, every plant, every leaf serves not only as an habitation, but as a world to some numerous race, till animal existence becomes so exceedingly refined that the effluvia of a blade of grass would be food for thousands. Since then, no part of our earth is left unoccupied. Why is it to be supposed that the immensity of space is a naked void, lying in eternal waste? There is room for millions of worlds as large or larger than ours, and each of them millions of miles apart from each other. It is possible to believe, and I always feel pleasure in encouraging myself to believe it, that there have been men in the world who persuade themselves that what is called a pious fraud might, at least under peculiar circumstances, be productive of some good. But the fraud, being once established, could not afterwards be explained. For it is with a pious fraud as with a bad action. It begets a calamitous necessity of going on. The person who first preached the Christian system of faith, and in some measure combined it with the morality preached by Jesus Christ, might persuade themselves that it was better than the heathen mythology that then prevailed. From the first preachers, the fraud went on to the second and to the third, till the idea of its being a pious fraud became lost in the belief of its being true. And that belief became again encouraged by the interest of those who made a livelihood by preaching it. But though such a belief might, by such means, be rendered almost general among the laity, it is next to impossible to account for the continual persecution carried on by the Church for several hundred years against the sciences and against the professors of sciences. If the Church had not some record or tradition that it was originally no other than a pious fraud, or did not foresee that it could not be maintained against the evidence that the structure of the universe afforded, having thus shown the irreconcilable inconsistencies between the real Word of God existing in the universe and that which is called the Word of God, as shown to us in a printed book, that any man might make, I proceed to speak of the three principal means that have been employed in all ages, and perhaps in all countries, to impose upon mankind. These three means are mystery, miracle, and prophecy. The two first are incompatible with true religion, and the third ought always to be suspected. With respect to mystery, everything we behold is, in one sense, a mystery to us. Our own existence is a mystery. The whole vegetable world is a mystery. We cannot account how it is that an acorn, when put into the ground, is made to develop itself and become an oak. We know not how it is that the seed we sow unfolds and multiplies itself, and returns to us such an abundant interest for so small a capital. The fact, however, as distinct from the operating cause, is not a mystery, because we see it, and we know also the means we are to use, which is no other than putting seed in the ground. We know, therefore, as much as is necessary for us to know, and that part of the operation that we do not know, and which, if we did, we could not perform, the Creator takes upon himself and performs it for us. We are, therefore, better off than if we had been led into the secret, and left to do it for ourselves. But though every created thing is in this sense a mystery, the word mystery cannot be applied to moral truth, any more than obscurity can be applied to light. The God in whom we believe is a God of moral truth, and not a God of mystery or obscurity. Mystery is an antagonism of truth. It is a fog of human invention that obscures truth and represents it in distortion. Truth never employs itself in mystery, and the mystery in which it is at any time employed is the work of an antagonist and never of itself. Religion, therefore, being the belief of a God and the practice of moral truth, cannot have connection with mystery. The belief of a God, so far from having anything of mystery in it, is of all beliefs the most easy, because it arises to us, as is before observed, out of necessity and the practice of moral truth, or, in other words, a practical imitation of the moral goodness of God, is no other than our acting toward each other, as he acts benignly toward all. We cannot serve God in the manner we serve those who cannot do without such service, and therefore the only idea we can have of serving God is that of contributing to the happiness of the living creation that God has made. This cannot be done by retiring ourselves from the society of the world and spending a recluse life in selfish devotion. The very nature and design of religion, if I may so express it, prove even to demonstration that it must be free from everything of mystery and unencumbered with everything that is mysterious. Religion, considered as a duty, is incumbent upon every living soul alike, and therefore must be on a level to the understanding and comprehension of all. Man does not learn religion as he learns the secrets and mysteries of a trade. He learns the theory of religion by reflection. It arises out of the action of his own mind upon the things which he sees, or upon what he may happen to hear or to read, and the practice joins itself thereto. When men, whether from policy or pious fraud, set up systems of religion incompatible with the word or works of God in the creation, and not only above but repugnant to human comprehension, they were under the necessity of inventing or adopting a word that should serve as a bar to all questions, inquiries, and speculations. The word mystery answered this purpose, and thus it has happened that religion, which is in itself without mystery, has been corrupted into a fog of mysteries. As mystery answered all general purposes, miracle followed as an occasional auxiliary. The former served to bewilder the mind, the latter to puzzle the senses. The one was the lingo, the other the legerdemain, the legardemain, the other the legardemain. I'm not sure what that word means. Once again, written in 1792. In the same sense that everything may be said to be a mystery, so also may it be said that everything is a miracle, and that no one thing is a greater miracle than another. The elephant, though larger, is not a greater miracle than a mite, nor a mountain a greater miracle than an atom. To an almighty power, it is no more difficult to make the one than the other, and no more difficult to make 1,000,000 of worlds than to make one. Everything, therefore, is a miracle in one sense, whilst in the other sense there is no such thing as a miracle. It is a miracle when compared to our power and to our comprehension. It is not a miracle when compared to the power that performs it. But as nothing in this description conveys the idea that is affixed to the word miracle, it is necessary to carry the inquiry further. Mankind have conceived to themselves certain laws by which what they call nature is supposed to act, and that a miracle is something contrary to the operation and effect of those laws. But unless we know the whole extent of those laws, and of what are commonly called the powers of nature, we are not able to judge whether anything that may appear to us wonderful or miraculous be within or be beyond or be contrary to her natural power of acting. The ascension of a man several miles high into the air would have everything in it that constitutes the idea of a miracle. If it were not known that a species of air can be generated several times lighter than the common atmospheric air, and yet possesses elasticity enough to prevent the balloon in which that light air is enclosed from being compressed into as many times less bulk by the common air that surrounds it, in like manner, extracting flames or sparks of fire from the human body as visible as from a steel truck with a flint, and causing iron or steel to move without any visible agent, would also give the idea of a miracle. If we were not acquainted with electricity and magnetism, so also would many other experiments in natural philosophy to those who are not acquainted with the subject. The restoring persons to life who are to the restoring persons to life who the subject with the subject. Okay, this is a weird sentence. Let's try this again. To those who are not acquainted with the subject, the restoring persons to life who are to appearance dead, as is practiced upon drowned persons, would also be a miracle, if it were not known the animation is capable of being suspended without being extinct. Besides these, there are performances by sleight of hand and by persons acting in concert that have a miraculous appearance, which, when known, are thought nothing of. And besides these, there are mechanical and optical deceptions. There is known an exhibition in Paris of ghosts or specters, which, though it is not imposed upon the spectators as a fact, has an astonishing appearance. As, therefore, we know not the extent to which either nature or art can go, there is no criterion to determine what a miracle is, and mankind, in giving credit to appearance under the idea of there being miracles, are subject to be continually imposed upon. And I'm getting cottonmouth, so we take something to fix that, and then we vape again. Gassy taffy, good stuff. Alrighty, let's go on. Besides these, there are performances by... Oh, nope. One more paragraph down. Since then, appearances are so capable of deceiving, and things not real have a strong resemblance to things that are, nothing can be more inconsistent than to suppose that the Almighty would make use of means such as are called miracles, that would subject the person who performed them to the suspicion of being an impostor, and the person who related them to be suspected of lying. Pardon me. And the doctrine intended to be supported thereby to be suspected as a fabulous invention. Of all the modes of evidence that ever were intended to obtain belief in any system or opinion to which the name of religion has been given, that of miracle, however successful the imposition may have been, is the most inconsistent. For in the first place, whatever recourse it had to show for the purpose of procuring that belief, for a miracle under any idea of the word is a show, it implies a lameness or wickedness in the doctrine that is preached, and in the second place, it is degrading the Almighty into the character of a showman, playing tricks to amuse and make the people stare and wonder. It is also the most equivocal sort of evidence that can be set up For the belief is not to depend upon the thing called a miracle, but upon the credit of the reporter who says that he saw it. And therefore the thing, were it true, would have no better chance of being believed than if it were a lie. Suppose I were to say that when I sat down to write this book, a hand presented itself in the air, took up a pen, and wrote every word that is herein written. Would anybody believe me? Certainly they would not. Would they believe me a whit the more if the thing had been a fact? Certainly they would not. Since then a real miracle, were it to happen, would be subject to the same fate as the falsehood. The inconsistency becomes the greater of supposing the Almighty would make use of means that would not answer the purpose for which they were intended, even if they were real. If we are to suppose a miracle to be something so entirely out of the course of what is called nature, that she must go out of that course to accomplish it, and we see an account given of such a miracle by the person who said he saw it, it raises a question in the mind very easily decided, which is it more probable that nature should go out of her course, or that a man should tell a lie? We have never seen in our time nature go out of her course. But we have good reason to believe that millions of lies have been told in the same time. It is therefore at least millions to one that the reporter of a miracle tells a lie. The story of the whale swallowing Jonah, though a whale is large enough to do it, borders greatly on the marvelous, but it would have approached nearer to the idea of miracle if Jonah had swallowed the whale. In this, which may serve for all cases of miracles, the matter which would decide itself as before stated, namely, it is more probable that a man should have swallowed a whale, or told a lie. Is it more probable that a man should have swallowed a whale, or told a lie? I don't know why I had to repeat that, but I did. The most extraordinary of all the things called miracles related to the New Testament, it is that of the devil flying away with Jesus Christ and carrying him to the top of a high mountain and to the top of the highest pinnacle of the temple, and showing him and promising to him all the kingdoms of the world. How happened it that he did not discover America? Or is it only with kingdoms that His Sooty Highness has any interest? I have too much respect for the moral character of Christ to believe that he told this whale of a miracle himself. Neither is it easy to account for what purpose it could have been fabricated, unless it were to impose upon the connoisseurs of Queen Anne's farthings and collectors of relics and antiquities, or to render... Turning of the page. Or to render... Make sure it's the right one. Yep. No, it's not. These pages are so thin. Or to render... Come on. You can do it. Almost had it. There we go. Or to render the belief of miracles ridiculous by outdoing miracles as Don Quixote outdid chivalry. Or to embarrass the belief of miracles by making it doubtful by what power, whether God or the devil, anything called a miracle was performed. It requires, however, a great deal of faith in the devil to believe his miracle. To believe this miracle. In every part of view in which those things called miracles can be placed and considered, the reality of them is improbable and their existence unnecessary. They would not, as before observed, answer any useful purpose, even if they were true, for it is more difficult to obtain belief to a miracle than to a principle evidently moral without any miracle. Moral principle speaks universally for itself. Miracle could be but a thing of the moment, and seen but a few. After this, it requires a transfer of faith from God to man to believe a miracle upon man's report. Instead, therefore, of admitting the recitals of miracles as evidence of any system of religion being true, they ought to be considered as systems of its being fabulous. It is necessary to the full and upright character of truth that it rejects the crutch, and it is consistent with the character of fable to seek the aid that truth rejects. This much for mystery and miracle. As mystery and miracle took charge of the past and the present, prophecy took charge of the future and rounded the tents of faith. It was not sufficient to know what had been done, but what would be done. The supposed prophet was the supposed historian of times to come, and if he happened in shooting with a long bow of 1,000 years to strike within 1,000 miles of a mark, the ingenuity of posterity could make it point blank, and if he happened to be directly wrong, it was only to suppose, as in the case of Jonah and Nineveh, that God had repented himself and changed his mind. What a fool do fabulous systems make of men. Cottonmouth. All right. If by a prophet we are to suppose a man to whom the Almighty communicated some event that would take place in future, either there were such men or there were not. If there were, it is consistent to believe that the event so communicated would be told in terms that could be understood, and not related in such a loose and obscure manner as to be out of the comprehension of those that heard it, and so equivocal as to fit almost any circumstance that might happen afterwards. It is conceiving very irreverently of the Almighty to suppose he would deal in this jesting manner with mankind. Yet all the things called prophecies in the book called the Bible come under this description. But it is with prophecy as it is with miracle. It could not answer the purpose, even if it were real. Those to whom a prophecy should be told could not tell whether the man prophesied or lied, or whether it had been revealed to him, or whether he conceived it. And if the thing that he prophesied or intended to prophesy should happen, or something like it, among the multitude of things that are daily happening, nobody could again know whether he foreknew it, or guessed at it, or whether it was accidental. A prophet, therefore, is a character useless and unnecessary. And the safe side of the case is to guard against being imposed upon by not giving credit to such relations. Upon the whole, mystery, miracle, and prophecy are appendages that belong to fabulous and not true religions. They are the means by which so many lo heres and lo theres have been spread about the world, and religion been made into a trade. The success of one impostor gave encouragement to another, and the quieter salvo of doing some good by keeping up a pious fraud protected them from remorse. I trouble not myself about the manner of future existence. I content myself with believing, even to positive conviction, that the power that gave me existence is able to continue it in any form and manner he pleases, either with or without this body. And it appears more probable to me that I shall continue to exist hereafter than that I should have had existence as I now have, before that existence began. Alright, Cottonmouth. And let's look ahead here, because there is like a break there. And I'm wondering if it is basically the end of a chapter, but it's not listed as a chapter. And we are 24 minutes into this, so we could go further. Let's see. Let's go further. It has often been said that anything may be proved from the Bible, but before anything can be admitted as proved by the Bible itself must be proved to be true. For if the Bible be not true, or the truth of it be doubtful, it ceases to have authority, and cannot be admitted as proof of anything. It has been the practice of all Christian commentators on the Bible, and of all Christian priests and preachers, to impose the Bible on the world as a mass of truth and as the Word of God. They have disputed and wrangled and anathematized each other about the supposed meaning of particular parts and passages therein. One has said and insisted that such a passage meant such a thing, another that it meant directly on contrary, and a third that it means neither one nor the other, but something different from both. And this they call understanding the Bible. Now, instead of wasting their time and heating themselves in fractions, disputations about doctrinal points drawn from the Bible, these men ought to know, and if they do not, it is civility to inform them, that the first thing to be understood is whether there is sufficient authority for believing the Bible to be the Word of God, or whether there is not. There are matters in that book said to be done by the express command of God that are as shocking to humanity as to every idea we have of moral justice, as anything done by Rochefort, by Carrier, by Joseph Le Bon in France, by the English government in the East Indies, or by any other assassin in modern times. When we read in the books ascribed to Moses, Joshua, etc., that they, the Israelites, came by stealth upon whole nations of people, who, as the history itself shows, had given them no offense, that they put all those nations to the sword, that they spared neither age nor infancy, that they utterly destroyed men, women, and children, that they left not a soul to breathe. Expressions that are repeated over and over again in those books, and that too with exulting ferocity. Are we sure these things are facts? Are we sure that the Creator of man commissioned these things to be done? Are we sure that the books they tell us so were written by His authority? It is not the antiquity of a tale that is any evidence of its truth. On the contrary, it is a symptom of it being fabulous. For the more ancient any history pretends to be, the more it has the resemblance of a fable. The origin of every nation is buried in fabulous tradition, and that of the Jews is as much to be suspected as any other. To charge the commission of acts upon the Almighty, which in their own nature, and by every rule of moral justice, are crimes, as all assassination is, and more especially the assassination of infants, is matter of serious concern. The Bible tells us that those assassinations were done by the express command of God. To believe, therefore, the Bible to be true, we must unbelieve all our belief in the moral justice of God. For wherein could crying or smiling infants offend? And to read the Bible without horror, we must undo everything that is tender, sympathizing, and benevolent in the heart of man. Speaking for myself, if I had no other evidence that the Bible were fabulous than the sacrifice I must make to believe it to be true, that alone would be sufficient to determine my choice. But in addition to all of the moral evidence against the Bible, I will, in the progress of this work, produce such other evidence as even a priest cannot deny, and show from that evidence that the Bible is not entitled to credit as being the Word of God. But before I proceed to this examination, I will show wherein the Bible differs from all other ancient writings, with respect to the nature of the evidence necessary to establish its authenticity. And this is more proper to be done because the advocates of the Bible, in their answers to the former part of the Age of Reason, undertake to say that they put some stress therein that the authenticity of the Bible is as well established as that of any other ancient book, as if our belief of the one could become any rule for our belief of the other. And that's where we'll stop. Thanks for listening, and join me in part 4 of The Age of Reason.